What's up, guys? How's it going? Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Anubhav Talks podcast, the soon to be number one podcast in the world. You might be like, isko dekho, ye kya bol rahe? You might be laughing at that statement of mine. But, by the end of this episode, I'm hoping that all of you are like, you know what, maybe there is some validity in this claim of his. Supremely excited to be talking about the man who's had the biggest influence on my adult life. Honestly, that's where I get a lot of my confidence from. Hopefully, you don't interpret this as being overconfidence, but Virat Kohli is the person who's given me the confidence that I have today. And today's episode will focus on the principles of his that I've learned tremendously from. And all of the principles that I'll talk about are universal in nature. And what that means is that you can apply all of these principles in your life as well. You don't have to be a cricket fan. You don't have to be a Virat Kohli fan. You don't have to be, you could be doing anything. You could be working at a strip club. You could be working as a bartender. You could be doing anything as an investment banker, and you'll surely benefit from the principles that I'll talk about, because all of these principles are universal in nature. They have an element of universality to them, which means that, they apply to your very unique and individual situations as well. They take your very unique and individual situations into account. I think you guys already know, but I'll still repeat it. My love for Virat Kohli knows absolutely no bounds. I would honestly, even go to the extent of saying that I love my parents. I absolutely love my parents. And mom, if you're watching right now, then I honestly do not mean this as an offense. So please do not take personal affront to what I'm saying right now. I love you. You've had a massive impact on my life, but the impact that you've had, the impact that dad has had, does not come remotely close to the impact that Virat Kohli has had on my life. And as I said, in today's episode, in today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about that impact, and I'm also going to be talking about exactly how you can benefit from it, the principles, the values, the practices that you can derive from the man, and potentially change your life as well. Look, I'm Kohli's number one disciple, without a shadow of a doubt. I'm inarguably Virat Kohli's number one disciple, and I'll prove that to you as well. I've seen every single interview of Virat Kohli. The girl that I was dating in Delhi, so when I was in Delhi, this was in late 2018, early 2019. The primary reason why I was dating her, with due respect to her, especially in case she's watching, was because her initials were VK, and I mentioned that to her as well during my first date. I don't think she registered it, because during our first date, she was absolutely hammered drunk, and so was I. We went to this place called Piano Bar, this beautiful jazz club in Delhi. Fucking spent 11,000 rupees that night. 11,000 rupees, because I ended up buying 2 bottles of wine. I got supremely carried away. And I did mention to her, when we were in high spirits, I said, look, one of the reasons, I'm attracted to you is because your initials are VK. But yeah, I mean, when she was sober during a second day, that's when she actually registered what I was talking about. I mentioned this on the video on Virat Kohli that I created. So you might know this already, but I think it's worth repeating, only because I'll tell you later. But it's worth repeating that if a girl ever tells me that I look even remotely close to Virat Kohli, even if I have like an iota of semblance to Virat Kohli, then I'm open to marrying you. And I actually mean this. I am not being cynical. I'm being very serious right now. So in case, you feel that way, then you can definitely slide into my DMs, and then we can fix up a date for our marriage. Okay. And look, I was an atheist, despite being a Jain, despite supposedly, being religious on paper. I was an atheist until I came across Virat Kohli, and he's the only person that I actually consider to be a demigod, the only human being I consider to be a demigod, and the only person, apart from my barber, of course, that I would actually bow my head in front of. But apart from that, I don't worship anyone, do not put anyone on a pedestal. So it's only my barber, in front of whom, I bow my head down, and Virat Kohli. Cool. I don't think anyone, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me, I don't think anyone has the credentials that I just spoke about. Without further ado, let's get into the universal principles, the values of Virat Kohli that we can all learn from. Let's make this as interactive as possible. So what I'm thinking is, so this is how it's going to work, right? Might end up changing it along the course of the podcast, but I have a list of 7 or 8 principles that I want to cover, and I want to cover all of these very, very in a very detailed manner, right? Because a lot of them might sound very simple on paper, but they're very profound. And I think it's worth spending time on these. Only then can we actually internalize a lot of these principles. एक बार हम लोग सुन सकते हैं, but at the same time, एक कान से घुसेगा, दूसरे कान से निकल जाएगा. And कल, when we wake up in the morning, we might end up forgetting about it, right? So let's make this detailed. It's going to be a long form conversation, but trust me, I will try to be as precise with my speech as possible. And I want you guys to actually contribute to this as well, right? So I'll keep an eye out for the comments. If not during during the live stream, then definitely towards the end of it, because I want you guys to actually contribute to this, ask me questions, and perhaps talk about the impact that Virat Kohli may have had upon your life as well. Okay, so we'll start with the first principle, which according to me, right, others might beg to differ, but according to me, this is definitely Virat Kohli's number one principle for success, number one rule for success, number one success mantra. And that is, Puneet, I have covered these in a previous video of mine, but this is going to be a more detailed analysis. Plus, I'm going to talk about many more points that I wasn't able to cover in that video, because in that video, you have to limit the video to about like 15 minutes or so. But this is going to be a more detailed analysis. And trust me, you will appreciate the comprehensiveness of this chat. Okay, so let's talk about the values first, as Pradyum said, and then we'll have a discussion as well on this. Okay, so number one, okay, going back to point number one. According to me, Virat Kohli's number one success mantra, and I think everything else that he does in life, right, or all his other principles are actually a byproduct or an offshoot of this success mantra of his, right? And this is very simple. Honestly, I haven't heard of any fucking line that has so much simplicity yet so much profundity. And the line is, if I work 120% every day, I am answerable to no one. If I work 120% every day, I am answerable to no one. He said this time and time again in many interviews of his. I'm pretty sure you guys have come across some interviews of his with Boria Mazumdar. He talks about this all the time. And this is when, and he first started making this statement of his when he was bursting onto the scene, when he had that dramatic year as a cricketer in 2016. He had that standout year. Honestly, he was head and shoulders above the rest of the cricketing world. And this is the principle that he followed during that year, or the few years leading up to that breakthrough year of his, which took place in 2016. That's also the year in which I think he scored close to 1,000 runs in the IPL, which is absolutely staggering. It's unimaginable, like scoring close to 1,000 runs in one IPL season. Okay, if I work 120% every day, I am answerable to no one. Okay, cool. Now let's break this line. Okay, we'll break this line into two parts. So the first part being, if I work 120% every single day, and the second part being, I am answerable to no one. Okay, so we'll tackle each line at a time. The first one, if I work 120% every day, right? So what this line basically means is that Kohli takes it one day at a time. एक cliche है that one day at a time लोग बोलते हैं. मतलब let me just focus on conquering today's battle, and the fact that I'm working hard every single day and conquering each day's battle will have a very compounding effect, and that will eventually result in me winning the war. A war comprises multiple battles, right? And the best strategy is to actually focus on winning each day's battle, taking it one day at a time. And when you do take it one day at a time, right, when you do the basics correctly every single day, then that has a beautifully compounding effect, which ultimately culminates in you winning the war, right? Now, how do you know that you are giving it your 120%? What does 120% mean in the first place, right? Dekho, you know that feeling when you go off to sleep, when you know that you've given it your best, you've put your best foot forward, you've controlled the controllables. In other words, you've actually done whatever was within your control to the best of your ability, right? When you're going off to sleep, when you're putting your head down on the pillow, assuming that you aren't fucking wanking or masturbating right before going off to sleep, you have a very good feeling. And you wake up with a very good feeling the following morning as well. You wake up with a high, you wake up with a spring in your stride, knowing that, you beautifully and satisfactorily conquered the previous day, and now you're setting out to do exactly the same, right? So you can lie to your friends, you can lie to your parents, you can lie to maybe you can try lying to yourself as well. Ki, I put my best foot forward, when you probably did not, but your conscience will prick you. So honestly, in these situations, your conscience is probably the best indicator or whether you've actually done whatever was within your control to the best of your ability or not. So use your conscience as a guide, as an indicator. And when your conscience does prick you, when you do feel compunction, when you do feel guilty, that's when you know that, Anubhav, you half-assed the process, right? Now, let me also tell you ki 120% every single day might not be the same. What I'm trying to say is that today's 120% might not be the same as tomorrow's 120%, because every single day we are faced by a different set of constraints. Some of you who come from a science background, an engineering background, some of you have an appreciation for mathematics, might know this concept in optimization. But even if you don't, let me just quickly explain it to you, because it's a fairly easy concept and I'm going to explain it in layman's terms. optimization mein kya hota hai? Basically you are trying to maximize something given a set of constraints that you have, right? So say for instance you own a factory, okay? You own a factory, you're manufacturing some goods and you're selling goods to the public, right? So you are trying to maximize maybe the output, the output of goods that you manufacture in the factory. Now you have a set of constraints. That set of constraints being, okay, you have a specific number of laborers working, you have a specific number of machines. Those are your limitations, those are your constraints. Now given the constraints that you have to maximize your output. And so that's why when I said ki today jo tumhara 120% hai, might be very different from the 120% that you have tomorrow, because one day, maybe today, you're feeling good about yourself, you're feeling great, things are great in your life, and so your 120% today might be much higher compared to what your 120% tomorrow is, because tomorrow you might not be feeling that good about yourself. But given the set of constraints that you're facing on a daily basis, right, it is upon you to actually maximize whatever your 120% that day is. Okay? So that's pretty much the meaning of the first line, which is, if I work 120% every day. Now, the second line, which is related, or the second part of the statement, which is related to the first part of the statement, is I am answerable to no one. Dekho, Virat Kohli, right, has the burden of expectations of 1.3 billion people, plus other fans all over the world. There are the media is constantly scrutinizing every move of his. He's always under the scanner, always. The fans are always scrutinizing every move of his. If he knew that he was half-assing his responsibility, that is, he was coming late to practice, not quite giving it his best during practice, not quite training hard, then he would definitely be answerable to everyone, right? Because he's half-assing the process. Then usko apna muh dikhana padega. Ha, you know what? It's because I didn't quite, give it everything. I had fuel left in the tank. But when you know that you're doing whatever's within your control, you are not answerable to anyone. So the media can tell you, Acha, Virat Kohli got out for a duck in the last match, but you know that, what, you are trusting the process. You are trusting the process in the sense that, dekho, I am putting my best foot forward. If things do not work out today, that is, if I end up getting out for a duck today, maybe in the next match things will work out. I'm trusting the process, right? So it's only a matter of time before things actually end up working out. If not today, maybe in the next match. If not in the next match, maybe 2 matches from now. So things will eventually work out, and so that's how you can actually insulate yourself from the hate, from the criticism that's coming from the public, because you're like, what, at least I'm doing whatever's within my control to the best of my ability. Okay? So that is if I work 120% every day, I am answerable to no one, according to me. As I said, I know Ananya Dev, light's gone. One of my lights ek phenjot fat gayi. Anyway, the other one's still working though, so I think you can still see my beautiful face. So that was the first principle. Okay? Now we're done with the first principle. Now let's talk about the second principle. And this is very evident. But I'll also talk about my story as it pertains to this principle, because I think you might be able to relate to that story as well. Dekho, we all know that Virat Kohli has truckloads, has oodles, has boatloads of self-belief, and it's oftentimes that self-belief that actually drives him, that motivates him to give his 120% every single day. Dekho, bahut jan ke paas work ethic hai. A lot of people have work ethic. A lot of people have the ability, have the talent. But not everyone can actually couple that ability, can couple that talent with self-belief. Together, like talent and hard work on one side, self-belief on the other side, together, when they're combined, they make for a very lethal concoction. There's synergistic effects. Ek aur ek 11 hota hai. 1 plus 1 isn't equal to 2. 1 plus 1 equals 3. There's synergistic effects when these two elements beautifully combine. And there's a quote as well from Virat Kohli. In fact, that's the poster that I have on my wall, and it's Virat Kohli celebrating a century that he scored in the Asia Cup. I think this was the 183 that he had scored against Pakistan. And his quote is, self-belief and hard work will always deliver success. Again, it's simple, but it's a brilliant reminder, especially on a daily basis when I see his beautiful face when I wake up in the morning, right? So dekho, and I mentioned this in the previous video of mine as well. I'm going to mention this again. I think the way it works is, you have hard work or you have talent, right? That's the propane in a hot air balloon. In a hot air balloon, you need fuel or you need propane, right? That's the gas, hai? But you need something to spark or to light up that propane. And I think that's self-belief, So you could have all the talent in the world, you could have all the work ethic in the world, but without self-belief, your efforts will fall short. And I feel that was what was happening to me as well initially, because I think throughout up until maybe 2016 or 2017, to be completely honest, I always felt that I had the ability, I had the work ethic, I had the talent. But what I was really lacking was the self belief. And I'm pretty sure, maybe, if you have to be honest with yourself, I'm guessing a lot of you might be going through something similar, might be feeling something similar, maybe have gone through something similar in the past, but have transformed yourself. And looking at the likes of Virat Kohli, looking at the likes of Conor McGregor, Cristiano Ronaldo, Sergio Ramos as well. When you look at these people, when you look at these big personalities, the first thing that springs to your mind is, how on earth do they have such a tremendous amount of self-belief? Maybe they're born with it, maybe they've cultivated it over the years, maybe it's a combination of both, right? It's genetic as well. But to be completely honest, look, I won't say that my self-belief is very robust right now, but it's a lot more robust compared to what my self-belief was like earlier, when it was very fickle at best. At times it went missing completely. And so the practice that helped me, and look, there could be other practices that you could practice that might help you more, but I'm speaking based upon my example. The practice that really helped me was honestly just reading out the affirmation that, Anubhav, you have what it takes. You have it in you. You have what it takes. And to kya hota tha, even though deep within I thought that, no, Anubhav, you really don't have what it takes. Sometimes just telling myself every single day, Anubhav, no, you have what it takes. You have what it takes. You can do it. You have the talent. You have the ability, made me actually go for it, when earlier I probably would have just backed off and not gone for it. So kya hota tha, kabhi, if I just went for it, telling myself that, Anubhav, you have what it takes, you have what it takes, you have what it takes, ek do baar tukka lag jata tha, my efforts would pay off. And that's when you see the result, acha, you know what? I told myself I have what it takes. I went for it and it actually paid off. That's when you start feeling, maybe I actually do have what it takes, and slowly but surely, it takes years, and I'm still work in progress. It takes years. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You start internalizing the fact. And then that's how the virtuous cycle works. You tell yourself, Anubhav, you have what it takes. That then goads you to actually go for it. You go for it. You sometimes succeed. When you do succeed, you tell yourself, Anubhav, wait, I really have what it takes. And then you go for more in the future. So that's how the beautifully virtuous cycle works. And honestly, I would say, trust me, it's a skill. I feel self-belief. It's a skill that you can hone, that you can deliberately cultivate. And sometimes, the easiest way, the most simple way in which you can actually go about doing that is by reminding yourself, Anubhav, you actually have what it takes. Or, whatever your name might be, you have what it takes. So that's how you can cultivate the self-belief. And that self-belief, as I mentioned, coupled with the ability, with the talent, with the work ethic, will make for a lethal combination. Okay. Lovely. I'm enjoying this so far. Hopefully you're enjoying this as well. Hopefully, give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying it. Keep commenting. I'm seeing your comments coming from the corner of my eye. So keep it going. I need the energy from you. Virat Kohli definitely gives me a lot of energy, right? Instills a lot of energy in me. There's nothing that gives me a higher high than talking about Virat Kohli. But I think I'd rather do it in your company as opposed to, like having a conversation with the fucking walls about Virat Kohli, right? So next point that I have on my list, you may have heard this quote of Virat Kohli. It goes, you either win or you learn. Okay. You either win or you learn. So instead of saying you either win or you lose, right? You either win or you learn. Virat Kohli is an irrational optimist. He's an irrational optimist. Have you ever, tell me something, okay? And be honest with me, okay? If there's an instance that you can point out and I look at it and I'm like, you know what? I think you're right about this. Then I'll concede the fact that I'm wrong here. Okay. So tell me if you can actually point out an instance, but I, for the life of me, cannot think about a single instance in the recent past, especially since like 2016 or 2017, when Virat Kohli has been down in the dumps, when he's actually been very dispirited, jab wo mayus laga hai, kabhi nahi, I can't remember anything. And regardless of how catastrophic, how apocalyptic, how dire the situation might be for Team India, his head never drops. And there are a few reasons. Number one, he's an irrational optimist, right? Virat Kohli is like, even though India might have like a 1% chance of digging itself out of the hole that we find ourselves in, out of the predicament or the precarious situation that we are in right now, maybe there is a miracle that can take place, right? So that's irrational optimism. And to be completely honest, I to each his own, I would rather be an irrational optimist than a rational pessimist. I would rather be an optimist and get it wrong than be a pessimist and get it right. Okay? And look, with Virat, the other reason, apart from the fact that he's an irrational optimist, he's the captain. He has to lead by example, right? So if the other players, the rest of the team members, like the KL Rahuls and the Mohammad Shamis and the Jasprit Bumrahs, right, see that Virat Kohli himself has given up, right? His spirits look deflated. It's like someone's taken the fucking wind out of his sails, right? How will they feel? How will they feel? But the reverse can also happen, right? It's contagious. Energy is contagious, just like a lack of energy is contagious. When you surround yourself with someone who's always deflated, malab dhila dhila, you feel dhila dhila that way as well on a daily basis. But the corollary, the reverse, is that when you're around someone who's like full of energy, full of bottomless reserves of energy, that has a contagious effect on you as well. And that's exactly how Virat Kohli also uplifts his team members, because he knows that his head is never going to drop. So you either win or you learn. And I talked about I talked about self-belief being a skill. Optimism is a skill as well. I used to be extremely neurotic. I still am neurotic, but less so compared to what the case was earlier. Very neurotic, always prone to anxiety, negative feelings, always looking at the glass half empty every single time, looking at the proverbial glass half empty. But again, just like self-belief, optimism is also a skill that can be cultivated. It can be honed. You can make deliberate and concerted efforts to actually prop up your optimism. And I think by just staying positive, telling myself, Anubhav, you have to be irrationally positive. Look at the silver lining, regardless of how thin that silver lining might be. But just reminding yourself, Anubhav, you either win or you learn, looking at the examples like Virat Kohli, right, who are paragons of optimism, has made me as well more of an optimist. I'm definitely nowhere close to being as much of an optimist as Virat Kohli is, but along the spectrum, right? If this is pessimistic, this is optimistic, right? Along the spectrum, I've definitely moved from here closer, much closer to the optimism side of things. And again, as I said, it's taken years for that to happen. I'm still a work in progress, but I've definitely sought a lot of inspiration from the power of Virat Kohli's example, and the examples of like a few other people that I mentioned early on in the stream, Cristiano Ronaldo, Sergio Ramos, who I feel in many ways, have a very similar character, similar personality, similar style to Virat Kohli's. Yeah. Lovely. Fucking loving it. We're on a roll, guys. We're on a roll. Absolute roll right now. Let me just drink a glass of water. A sip, I meant. Cool. Number four is one of my favorite points. It's, I think I would say it's probably by far my favorite point, because this is what I love about Virat Kohli, which is the controlled aggression that he's displaying on the pitch, right? Virat Kohli is someone who plays fire with fire, right? Remember earlier, this was like maybe late 90s, early 2000s. If you think about the Indian cricket teams, I'm not sure if you guys used to follow cricket. Maybe you guys have seen some clips. But back then, the Indian cricket team, most of the members of the Indian cricket team, this was during like Azharuddin's time, or maybe, before Ganguly became captain. Because I think when Ganguly came, there was definitely a sea change in the demeanor that the Indian players assumed. But before Ganguly came, the Indian players were meek, they were docile, they were submissive, right? Especially when they were touring some other country. When they were playing away from home, they're like fucking mice, dude. They're mice. Mice kya? They were sheep. I think that's more appropriate to say, right? But now, because of leaders, because of people who lead by example, because of aggressive personalities, and when I say aggressive, this is healthy aggression that I'm saying, okay? Aggressive personalities like sort of Ganguly, like Virat Kohli. Look at this new Indian outfit. Virat Kohli recently in an interview, I think this was like maybe 4 months back or something, mentioned that my style is the representation of the new India. And I think he couldn't have said it any better. He summed it up beautifully. Look at Indians now, yeah. Look at Indians now. We are honestly, like especially the Indian youth, we are honestly not afraid that much. We don't necessarily put like fucking foreigners on a pedestal, like we actually think hum kisi se kam nahi hai. And Virat Kohli, I feel, is like an embodiment, as he mentioned, is an embodiment, is a representation of today's youth in India in so many ways, right? You could say there is a case for this, and I won't deny this. I might be like a Virat fanatic, but I won't deny this. Initially, when Virat first, when he made his debut in 2008, for the next few years, maybe until 2013, 2014-ish, Virat Kohli was definitely a bit of a brat. He was that typical Delhi ka chokra, right? I think you remember in 2014 when India toured Australia, he was getting a lot of stick from the fans at the Sydney cricket ground, and he just ended up showing his middle finger. he got fined, made a couple of controversial, contentious remarks in a press conference as well, and oftentimes would just have run-ins, with a lot of the players. Like Bekar mein, he used to end up spending his energy just having all of these run-ins with a lot of these players. But now, right, which a lot of people I think fail to realize is that his aggression is a lot more controlled. And what I mean by that is that Virat knows exactly when to be zen, right? And when to turn on that MCBC wala switch, because that MCBC wala switch is very, very important, right? You can't be zen all your fucking life, right? I actually feel there's a lot of truth in the cliche or the saying or the expression that nice guys finish last. You cannot be nice all the time, right? I'm not saying be malevolent, be malicious, but at the same time, you should have a dangerous side to yourself, right? You should not be completely innocuous. If you're completely innocuous, then you're not even a threat. You're inconsequential. Why do you think, okay, tell me something. Why do you think people all over the world, right? Football fans all over the world love a club like a Tottenham Hotspur, right? Because they know they aren't fucking dangerous. They're rubbish. They will never win. They'll always maybe finish 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. They'll be close to the top 4. At best, they'll finish top 4, right? But they'll never win the league, right? Why do people despise, loathe Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, especially United? People have a hatred for United. People hate United with a passion. And that's because they're dangerous, right? They have what it takes to win. And oftentimes it does, I guess, induce jealousy amongst people, induces hatred amongst people when you're a serial fucking winner. I have this beautiful quote from Jose Mourinho. I love the guy. Regardless of the fact that, he hasn't been doing all that well in the recent past. A lot of people are talking about the fact that, this is the beginning of the end for him as a manager, and could be, because his recent stints as a manager have been very, very underwhelming and off the pace. But Jose Mourinho, if you guys have actually watched the documentary, this is All or Nothing with Tottenham Hotspur, right? Beautiful, beautiful documentary. I do not watch TV shows and documentaries, but that's one that I did end up watching from start to finish. And Jose Mourinho, I think you'll remember this. Jose Mourinho in that says he's talking to his Tottenham teammates, this was after like a poor result that Tottenham had. And he was accusing his Tottenham teammates of being too nice, of being good guys, as opposed to being dangerous. When you're out there on the pitch, you have to be someone like a Roy Keane, like an absolute warrior. When you're going out onto the field, it's battle. It's wartime, baby. It's a war, You aren't going there to fucking shake hands and exchange jerseys, right? So he was accusing his Tottenham players of being too naive, too weak, too meek, too docile, too sheepish. And he said, and pardon my language, in case your younger sibling or your little sister, your little brother, your parents might be watching this right now, maybe use a pair of earphones. Jose Mourinho said, "This is the difference between a team of cunts and a team of good guys. But the story of football is that the team of good guys, they never win. So fucking hell, be a cunt." I fucking love Jose Mourinho. I love Jose Mourinho. But yeah, I think this quote, Felix Rodrigo, good guys never win. Yeah, exactly. You summed it up, and I think Jose's quote sums up what I'm talking about. So this is Virat Kohli's controlled aggression or healthy level of aggression, right? And he knows exactly how to balance the zen in him and how to balance the aggression in him. Kab aggression dikhana padta hai, he knows that. When you're touring in Australia, right? Hostile conditions, you're getting so much stick from the crowd abhi to nahi hai, but back in the day, the opposition players also are coming at you, in your face. You cannot play on the back foot, boss. You have to play fire with fire. And that's exactly what Virat Kohli does. And that's exactly what gives the confidence to the other players also, the younger players, people who are still like 21, 22, 23, to actually showcase what they have, and prove to Australia that, boss, I just haven't come to play on the back foot. I've come here to show intent, show character, and play on the front foot. Samajh jo? And Virat Kohli that way has that effect on the other teammates. And look, personal story, and this might be an unpopular opinion. Not every single person might not agree with this, to be completely honest. But when I was in America, okay, when I spent those 7 years in America between 2011 and 2018, I always operated with a chip on my shoulder. Always operated with a chip on my shoulder. And I'm not saying this because, look, it wasn't exactly racism. It definitely wasn't racism. My American friends were very nice to me, very kind to me. And there were no experiences that I had. I can't remember too many experiences when there was explicit racism meted out towards me. Okay? But you could say this was maybe an implicit, a tacit form of racism. And dekho, kya hota tha when I was in America, right? knowing that, look, this guy's come from India, he's a fob. Fob was the term that was used to people who've just come from India, right, and landed in America. So fob being an acronym for fresh off the boat. Okay, basically, you made the long voyage and you've just come off the boat and you've landed in America. Okay, people have these preconceived notions कि अच्छा ये इंडिया से आया है, इंजीनियरिंग पढ़ने आया है, this guy must be a nerd, whatever, he probably is a computer science student, he's socially not that talented, probably doesn't have the best of communication skills as well, English tutti frutti bolta hoga, right? So people have these preconceived notions, not everyone, but a lot of Americans, okay? And this was especially true during my time at Goldman Sachs when I was working on the trading flow, and also when I was working in investment banking. Okay? Because Indian Indians, okay? I'm not talking about ABCDs here. Indian Indians were a very rare breed on the trading flow as well as in the investment banking division at Goldman Sachs in New York. Okay? So a lot of the people had these preconceived notions that, oh, this guy probably works in the technology division. This guy's probably a coder. This guy's probably belongs to the back office. Okay? But as soon as you start speaking with them, you pleasantly surprise them. Oh, fuck, dude, this guy's actually socially talented. This guy actually likes, going out, having a couple of drinks. This guy can actually, mingle with people. This guy isn't necessarily like the geek or that guy who's always in his private space that we initially thought he was, right? So when you actually dispel these preconceived notions that a lot of these Americans have about you, right, you feel good about yourself. You're like, you know what? I am actually beating them at their own game, because little did they fucking realize that I'm probably way more socially talented than most of them were, to be completely honest. And so dispelling those preconceived notions feels good, especially when you consider yourself to be an ambassador of your country, which I definitely did consider myself to be, So in many ways, I would actually bend over backwards to show my Indianness, to showcase my Indianness and be a proud ambassador of the nation, as opposed to acting as if, I was not proud of my Indian identity, which I feel a lot of Indians did. I'm not judging, maybe I am judging, fuck it. But a lot of Indians, I feel, actually were slightly shameful or maybe hesitant to show their true Indian nature. That's one of the reasons why I feel a lot of people like fake their fucking accents also, to show that they were more American. And so, yeah, I mean, in the investment banking division, I used to, and I mentioned this in my Virat Kohli video as well. I had a couple of Virat Kohli pictures or stuck to the monitor of my stuck to my computer monitor, and that would remind me, ki bro, you have to arm yourself, equip yourself with a healthy level of aggression every single day. And even though you might be operating away from home, right, in America, and even though you might not be feeling like a sense of belonging, right, you still have to operate on the front foot. You have to operate on the front foot. So that was a lesson that I learned. Cool. Lovely. So that's point number 4, which is learning controlled aggression or a healthy level of aggression from Virat Kohli. Point number 5 is also beautiful. It's honestly thoda philosophical, right? And this point, I think, really has the power to change the way with which you actually operate on a daily basis. And you might start operating with a greater sense of urgency once you understand the brevity of life and the inevitability of death. Brevity of life ka matlab the shortness of life, and the inevitability of death matlab death is a constant. It will happen, right? They say death and taxes, right? They're constants. Virat Kohli knows that a professional cricketer's career lasts for maybe 15 years, at most 20 years. Okay, Virat Kohli made his debut in August 2008 when he was 19 or 20 years old, right? He'll retire when he's maybe 37, 38. So in total, he will have played about maybe 18 years. So that's how short a professional cricketer's career is. So he's retiring at the age of 37, 38, which means that he has a solid 45 to 50 years more to live. A solid 45 to 50 years more to live after he retires, right? To knowing that, a professional cricketer's career lasts only 15 to 20 years at most, he's actually filled with a desire to make each day count, right? He considers himself to be extremely lucky that he's one out of 11 players out of a nation of 1.3 billion cricket fanatics and zealots, right, that's getting a chance to represent his nation. But this chance to represent your nation, right, does not last forever. It's ephemeral. It's temporary. It lasts for only 15 to 20 years. And hence, every single day, when you see him on the field, putting his body on the line, when even though the game might be in the bag, the game might be done and dusted, the game might be won already, but he still wants to save that extra run. He's still diving on the field to save that extra run, because that's his way. That's his way of respecting the game, of being true to the game that's given him everything that he has today, right? And he knows that this game that he loves so much, that he dreamt of playing, that probably 1.3 billion Indians dream of playing, will only last 15 to 20 years. And so he will be doing a major disservice to himself if he does not give it his all on a daily basis. He'll be doing a major disservice to himself and to the game as well. And Virat Kohli says this: if you are true to your endeavor, his endeavor here being the game of cricket, right? That's given him everything. If you are true to your endeavor will also be true to you. That's the reciprocal nature of the relationship. If you are true to your endeavor will also be true to you. And so that's his way of respecting the game. And knowing that, it's only going to be 15 to 20 years. How much longer? He's 31, I think, right now. So 7 or 8 more years until he hangs up his boots. That's unimaginable. It baffles me right now. Like, it's blowing my mind thinking about the fact that, after 7 or 8 years, we won't see Virat Kohli playing the game of cricket. Virat Kohli will retire. He'll hang up his boots. And so that's what equips him with the energy that he has every single day. That's why he's able to take the bit between his teeth on a daily basis. And look, there's a beautiful line. There's a beautiful line that I try reminding myself of, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so successfully. There's a beautiful line that I read in this book called When Breath Becomes Air. Okay? You don't necessarily have to read the book. I honestly thought the book was slightly overrated. This is Paul Kalani's memoir. It was a good book, but I thought it was slightly overrated. But I'll tell you what the line is. Okay? And the line is most pertinent or germane to what I'm talking about right now. Paul Kalani said in his memoir, "The days are long, but the years are short." You may have, heard me say this line in some of my previous videos. The days are long, but the years are short. And just think about it, right? Like, let this sink in. Reflect on this line for a few seconds. Isn't this really true? Like, every single day you're toiling at your desk, either at home or at the office. You're toiling. And every single day you're like, yaar, aaj ka din lamba tha, I'm tired, this, that. But how quickly do the years go by? It's been more than 1 year already since lockdown 1.2. It feels like yesterday that I came back on the 28th of March, 2020, back home to Calcutta. It feels like yesterday. And it's been way more than a year now since that happened. You can't imagine how quickly the years go by. Another thought experiment, which honestly might just, which is frightening to think of. I'll give you a thought experiment, right, pertaining to that involves my mother and my sister. Okay, my sister, as a lot of you might already know, is in America. My sister's in America. My mother's here with me in Calcutta. Okay. Now, on average, and this might change in the future. Maybe my sister's life circumstances change, my mother's life circumstances change, my circumstances change, so it might change in the future. But let's just think about the average. Okay. On average, my sister meets my mother once a year. So either my sister comes to Calcutta and we end up meeting, or we go to America and we end up meeting my sister there. Okay. On average, once a year, and typically during like the December break. Okay. My mother's 52 years old right now, 52 or 53, born 23rd June 1968. So do the math. I think 52 or 53, 52, I think. How long would my mother live? How much longer? Maybe 30 years, 35 years. Okay? 30, 35 years. On average, my sister is meeting my mother once a year. So how many encounters does my sister have left with our mother? 30 to 35. 30 to 35. Thinking about it that way, it fucking frightens you, dude. It frightens me. Like, honestly, just thinking about that is giving me goosebumps right now. 30 to 35 encounters that my sister has left with her mother. Assuming that this is how, this is the rate at which we're meeting right now, or the rate at which we've been meeting over the past few years, continues to be the rate at which we meet in the future as well. 30 to 35 meetings. Yeah, whatever. Nothing more to add to that, Fuck. Number six is physical fitness. Look, I'm not going to be stating the obvious here. Okay? I'm not going to be talking about the obvious when I say physical fitness, because you already know what the benefits. You already know how Virat Kohli's actually transformed his life, how he's transformed his game as a result of becoming a lot more fitter. Okay? Like he attributes the radical transformation that he's gone through in the quality of cricket that he's playing, in the quality of his batting, to becoming physically fitter. Okay. Do you guys know what triggered Virat Kohli's transformation when it comes to his fitness? I think a lot of you might know this. I think Virat Kohli's fanatics will definitely know it, but I think it's worth repeating because it's a beautiful story. So this was after the 2012 season of the IPL. So Virat Kohli was actually in a good run of form playing for India. He played well in 2011. Of course, was part of the team that won the World Cup as well. Played in the final, played in the World Cup, scored a century also against was it Bangladesh? I believe Bangladesh. So Virat Kohli was in good form going into the 2012 season of the IPL, and he was feeling very upbeat, very optimistic, very confident about having a big season for the Royal Challengers Bangalore. Okay, but that's not what the game of cricket had planned for him. He had a disastrous season, like a very, very forgettable season for RCB. RCB, I think, had a decent season, but Virat Kohli's form was definitely an aberration. He had a disastrous season, and then after the season, he was completely deflated. He was sad. He was despondent. He was dejected. He was depressed. He was like, "Kya galat ho gaya yaar?" Like, I was in good form. I was feeling so optimistic about my chances, but he felt horrible about himself, right? And then he just thought through the campaign, how the campaign went, and then he thought, "Ki bro, after every single match, I was drinking during those IPL after parties. I was having fun. I was eating like the unhealthiest of foods." And then he said, "Is that how a professional cricketer who's playing for India and for Royal Challengers Bangalore, is that how a cricketer is supposed to conduct himself?" He was ashamed of himself. And in an interview with Graham Bensinger, he said, "I was disgusted by who I saw in the mirror." So after the IPL got over, he went back home, took his shirt off, saw himself in the mirror, and he said, I was disgusted by who I saw in the mirror after the 2012 season of the IPL. And that's when he was like, "You know what? I am now going to make amends." And quite literally from the next day itself, he completely changed his lifestyle, completely changed his fooding, completely changed his, started working out every single day and just changed his entire lifestyle. And since then, he hasn't looked back. Gaurav Kapoor के episode में Breakfast with Champions, he mentioned कि मैं 4 साल से butter naan खाया नहीं हूँ. And he mentioned this, I think, some 2 years back or something. And with Virat Kohli, that is not unthinkable. जब वो 4 साल से butter chicken खाया नहीं है. Because that is the self-control that guy has. That is the dedication towards his game, towards his craft that he has. He's got a discipline that's forged of Bethlehem steel. That is Virat Kohli. And because of that, one day when he was disgusted by what he saw by who he saw in the mirror, he was like, "You know what? I'm going to make a change. I'm going to make amends now." And that's exactly what he did. And look, whenever you're making any change, especially when it's a radical one, right? It's far from easy. It's far from easy, right? This is what Virat Kohli said. Fucking very inspiring, right? He said, "For the first 2 months, I felt I wanted to eat the bed sheet when I went to sleep because I was so hungry. I was craving taste. I was craving delicious food. But then I saw the results. I felt quick around the field. I would wake up in the morning and feel like I had energy." And to be completely honest, again, I'm not comparing myself to Virat Kohli because I'm absolutely fucking nothing compared to Virat Kohli, right? But in terms of fitness, Virat Kohli has been by far my number one inspiration, and I honestly felt very similarly when I was going through my radical fitness transformation as well. Let's rewind to late 2016. Okay? Late 2016 is when I was absolutely sick of my first role at Goldman Sachs within the sales and trading division. I absolutely hated it with a passion. I hated my life, and that was having this snowball effect on other areas of my life as well. Because of the contempt, the anger that I was actually feeling at work, मैं अपना गुस्सा अपने friends के ऊपर निकाल रहा था, मम्मी के ऊपर निकाल रहा था, अपने बहन के ऊपर निकाल रहा था. So literally, my professional life as well as my personal life, and my personal life because of my professional life was in tatters, absolute tatters. Stress eat कर रहा था. Every day नीचे जाके एक बड़ा सा bagel खरीद रहा था. न्यूयॉर्क के पिज्जास खा रहा था. Because that was the only thing that was giving me a kick. Cigarettes फूक रहा था. दारू पी रहा था. I was smoking up. I still remember smoke up करो, उसके बाद right opposite where I was living एक sushi की place थी. उधर जाके sushi खाता था बैठ के आराम से. But then I really got inspired by Virat Kohli's example. ठीक है? And I watched this interview of his. सब लोग देखना इस podcast के बाद सब लोग देखना. he had done this interview with NDTV. ठीक है, just type Virat Kohli fitness NDTV, तुमको मिल जाएगा वो एक. And Virat Kohli talked about how becoming physically fitter has not just had a massive impact upon his physique, his body, but also his mental fortitude. And that is exactly what has helped him cultivate the unflappable fortitude that he has today. So definitely watch that interview, Virat Kohli Fitness NDTV. And then I slowly but surely, started taking steps towards improving my physical fitness as well. Okay? And when I say I felt very similarly to how Virat Kohli felt, what I mean by that is that it was very hard. Shuru mein. It was very hard, especially when you were indulging in booze, in marijuana, in cigarettes, right? It was very hard to let go of those and become very clean, which is exactly what I was trying. Because I also operate in a very extreme fashion. It's all or nothing for me, as opposed to like a phased approach, which I rarely do. But what was motivating me on a daily basis is that when you wake up in the morning, when you wake up the following morning, and when you see you made like a little bit of progress, मतलब पेट तुम्हारा थोड़ा सा आज ज्यादा पतला लग रहा है, या फ्लैप्स आज थोड़े कम लग रहे हैं, टायर्स आज थोड़े कम लग रहे हैं, ट्रिपल चिन से डबल चिन हो गई है. When you're making that micro progression, I'm not even talking about progression, boss. I'm talking about micro progression. When you're making that micro progression or that infinitesimally small amount of progress that you can maybe see in the mirror because you've scrutinized yourself so well, so you can see even the smallest of changes, that is what motivates you. And I'll tell you why that motivates you. That motivates you because you're like, you know what? Me, by virtue of my actions, by virtue of making efforts, I am capable of actually making tangible changes in my life. And when you realize that, you know what, you are not good for nothing, you are not useless, and that by virtue of your efforts, you can actually make very positive, tangible, observable, discernible changes in your life, that's when you feel that, bro, if I can do this within the domain of fitness, I can do this in any other fucking domain as well, not just in fitness. I can translate the model or the framework or the formula that I applied within the fitness domain to other aspects of my life and start seeing beautiful results in other aspects of my life as well. And that is one of the reasons why Charles Duhigg, in his book, The Power of Habit, calls fitness a keystone habit. What is a keystone habit? A keystone habit is a habit that unlocks many other positive habits, right? It has a domino effect, but a good domino effect, right? It unlocks many other positive habits. Reading, again, is a keystone habit. And when you become physically fitter, a lot of people don't realize this. A lot of people think about physical fitness as just being physical because, okay, it's physical fitness, right? But it brings about other changes in your life. It's made me a lot more confident person as well. I have the confidence now to express myself. And I would primarily attribute that to physical fitness. And I would primarily attribute my physical fitness journey to Virat Kohli. In that video with NDTV, this is what Virat Kohli said, and this sums up the what I was talking about, which is that, you know what, fitness has very underrated benefits. There are lots of other benefits that are non-physical as well, and this is what Virat said, and he beautifully sums it up. Okay, he said, physically being active and healthy helps you think better, helps you make better decisions. It releases positive endorphins inside your body. It helps you feel good about yourself. It helps you feel positive. When you're lying around not doing anything, it's an invitation for negativity. An empty mind is a devil's workshop, right? So these are like the non-physical benefits of physical fitness. Some of the other non-physical benefits of physical fitness, the halo effect. It's a principle in psychology. Definitely look it up, and I'm going to sum it up right now. Okay, I'll give you like a Spark Notes version of it. I'll give you a synopsis. Yeah. So the halo effect is pretty much this tendency that human beings have, right, to extrapolate or to assume things about someone based upon one aspect of his or her life. Okay? And we are all guilty of this. But you can actually take advantage of the halo effect by becoming physically fitter. Okay? So oftentimes, and सच बोलना, right? मेरे साथ तो ये होता है, maybe तुम लोग के साथ नहीं होता, but you tell me, when you see someone who's physically very fit, who's well groomed, physically fit, looking nice, looking in pristine shape, you often feel कि ये बंदा या बंदी sorted है ना, must be an A++ personality, and you assume कि अच्छा other aspects of his or her life are also probably sorted, just based upon the superficial thing that you see, just based upon the physical side of that person. You make that assumption. Now it may not necessarily be the case that that person has other aspects of his or her life sorted also, but oftentimes people have the tendency to assume that that's the case. So it's a psychological phenomenon that we're all guilty of, right? And you can take advantage of the halo effect by becoming physically fitter as well, because if the physical side of things is the first thing that people see, and oftentimes people form judgments, come up with conclusions which may or may not be right, just based upon the superficial like vision of yours that they can see. So that's the halo effect. That's another like non-physical benefit of physical fitness. I'm reading Jordan Peterson's 12 More Rules for Life. So his it's his third book actually. He wrote Maps of Meaning also, which was his first book, followed by 12 Rules for Life, and then 12 More Rules for Life, which was released very recently, I think in late March. And he talks about this in one of his chapters, and he's not talking about physical fitness. He's not talking about physical fitness, but I think what he mentioned and what I'm going to read out right now applies to what I'm talking about also. That physical fitness is a keystone habit, and what Jordan Peterson said in that chapter is that making something beautiful is difficult, but it is amazingly worthwhile. If you learn to make something in your life truly beautiful, even one thing, then you've established a relationship with beauty. From there, you can begin to expand that relationship out into other elements of your life and the world. That is an invitation to the divine. Now, I'm not saying that people who are not physically fit are not beautiful. ठीक है, तो इसको literally मत ले लेना. But what he's pretty much trying to say is when you actually work very hard, work relentlessly in just improving one aspect of your life, just one, make one thing beautiful about yourself, about your life. It could be physical fitness, could be something else. You've established a relationship with beauty as a result, right? You actually see the positive effects or the results of your changes, of your efforts towards making that one aspect that you've picked beautiful. And that's when you establish a relationship with beauty. And that's when you can establish a relationship with beauty in other aspects of your life as well. So I think this ties back to what I was talking about when I said physical fitness is a keystone habit. The book, Shiv Chandekar, who's asking, the book is 12 More Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I would highly suggest first reading 12 Rules for Life. I think that book had more of an impact on me than 12 More Rules for Life. And when I was absolutely lost and disillusioned, did not know what the fuck I should be doing with my life, when I came back to India in July of 2018, that book was my guiding spirit. That book had helped me tremendously. 12 More Rules for Life. If there's one book that I would gift to anyone, right, especially someone in despair, in somewhat of a predicament, in someone who's a bit clueless, I would probably gift 12 Rules for Life. Yeah. Brilliant, guys. So make a note of that book. It really has the power to transform your life the way it transformed my life, or at least sow the seeds, toward or sow the seeds of the transformation. Okay. Staying with fitness, there are a couple of things that I want to mention. Okay, before we move on to the next point. Look, it's only after, and this I think applies to a lot of people who do not do any form of physical activity. Okay. And I am not judging you. Like, I have been through that for the first 24 years of my life. I did not visit a gym even once. Not once. There's a joke. I've joked about this. I mentioned this on my LinkedIn. I wrote about this on my Twitter as well this one time, that for the first 24 years of my life, right, every single day was a rest day and every single day was a cheat day. That was my exercise routine. That was my nutrition plan. Every single day was a rest day. Every single day was a cheat day. I joked about this recently. But I'll tell you what. It's only after you actually start getting into physical fitness do you realize what you're missing out on. समझ रहे हो? तो जब मेरे friends college में होते थे, boss Anubhav, चल, let's smash a workout together. Let's hit the gym today. Let's do something. I'd be like, nahi yaar, kya karna hai? Maza nahi aayega, this, that. But now I've realized that it's the most pleasurable kind of pain that you'll ever experience. The most pleasurable kind of pain that you'll ever experience. The true happiness, whatever gives you true happiness, true joy, always entails a little bit of suffering. You have to pay a price for it. Otherwise, it's just pleasure. समझ रहे हो? Otherwise, it's just pleasure. And pleasure is very fleeting. It's like a fucking Ferris wheel. You go up, right? But it's followed by a very steep and inevitable crash as well. That is pleasure, right? Like whatever, nicotine, alcohol, drugs, this, that. Those are forms of pleasure. You're feeling good, you're on cloud nine, but then the crash is also coming very, very soon. And oftentimes the crash makes you feel worse than how good that substance made you feel when you were actually ingesting it. You know? But whenever you're going through some pain in the short term, right? And the gratification comes later, like physical fitness, it's painful when you're doing it, boss. If someone tells you, oh, I enjoy every aspect of it, no, it's painful. It's painful. You've got to put in the hard yards. But then it pays off beautifully. And the pain is the price that you have to pay for the beautiful and divine pleasure that you experience when you're putting in the hard yards. Yeah. So you don't quite realize what you're missing out on until you've actually tried it. And that's exactly what I would say to people who haven't quite started, their respective fitness journeys. And the other thing that I ought to mention is, just because your friend or just because I am into strength training, that doesn't necessarily mean that you should also be into strength training, right? Your job, and the best way that I would sum this up is, your job is to find out what workout feels like play to you. It doesn't necessarily have to be strength training. Could be cycling, could be biking, could be something else. Find the workout that feels like play to you. So experiment with different types of workouts until you land upon that type of workout which feels like play to you, which you actually look forward to doing. Your workout should not feel like a chore, boss. If it feels like a chore, then your physical fitness journey will end before it's even started. It should not feel like a chore. So experiment with different types of workouts when you're first starting out, and do not feel compelled to replicate or to emulate someone else's workout only because he or she might be your friend, or might be a guru, your guide, your mentor, or your tormentor. Cool. Talking about physical fitness, last night, so funny story. I was just fucking dicking around. Okay? For some reason, I didn't quite have like the motivation. I kept delaying my workout, which I typically don't do. I try getting my workout done within like the first, if not the first half of the day, then the first 65% of the day. Okay? I like getting my workout done. Okay? Khatam ho gaya, chalo. And then that gives me a boost. And then I can take that boost into the last 35% of my day's activities. Okay? Kal, I don't know, yaar. I just kept delaying my workout. Acha, karunga. Before I knew, 9 baj gaye. It's 9 p.m. Then I'm like, fuck, bro. When will I work out? Then I thought, Anubhav, you know what? You haven't skipped too many workouts in the recent past. You've been fairly diligent and assiduous when it comes to home workouts. Maybe you can skip a workout today, boss. Let's skip kar le tu. And then I opened Domino's.com. Chal, aaj Domino's order karte hain. Theek hai? I was about to place an order. And I swear I'm not saying this because I'm doing this talk today. I swear I'm not saying this because of that. I asked myself, boss, what would Virat Kohli do? And I'm not saying indulging in the odd pizza or two is a criminal activity. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you have to be perfect when it comes to your diet, your fitness. I'm not saying that. But I just told myself, boss, what would Virat Kohli do? So this is what I told myself. I told myself कि अनुभव ठीक है, तू पिज्जा खा ले, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, तुझे खाने का मन हो रहा है, खा ले, लेकिन एक छोटा सा वर्कआउट पहले कर ले. And doesn't necessarily have to be a 1.5 hour workout. It could be a 15-minute workout, a 30-minute workout. एक छोटा सा high intensity workout कर ले. So that's what I promised myself. So I said, ठीक है अनुभव, छोटा सा workout करूंगा, उसके बाद मैं pizza order करूंगा. Then I started working out automatically, boss. I'm not kidding. Automatically, and this doesn't happen all the time. So I was lucky that it happened yesterday. जोश आ गया, boss. उमंग आ गया, उत्साह आ गया. विराट कोहली का पोस्टर भी इधर है, वो भी देख रहा था. उससे प्री वर्कआउट भी मिल गया. And then I hit a good workout, about 1 hour 15 minutes, including like the stretching at the start and the stretching at the end. Didn't feel like ordering a pizza after that also. Because I'm like, you know what? I put in the hard yards right now. I don't want all my hard work to go down the drain. Why the fuck should I order a pizza right now? Ended up eating a light dinner. And I was very happy with myself. And I woke up feeling good about myself. Otherwise, kya hota? Had I eaten that pizza or not worked out, then I would have slept, okay? Feeling as if, oh wow, yaar, pizza kha liya. But then I would have woken up feeling miserable about myself in the morning. And then the way you wake up, what your mood is like the first thing in the morning when you wake up, that sets the tone for the day, boss. That sets the tone for the day. Which is why it's very important for you to actually end your previous night on a good note, such that you can start your following day on a good note. And then you take all the positive momentum from the start into the rest of the day as well. That's how the momentum works. But that's how negative momentum also works. Samajho? You have a shitty night, you've got a shitty morning, and then you take all the negative energy into the rest of the day. But you see how one small decision can actually, have such a big impact on how like the next day or the next half of the day materializes. A small decision. And look, I don't always stick to my guns. I am not perfect. Let me mention this. I am not fucking perfect, right? Though I stress eat a lot. I skip workouts. I eat unhealthy, shitty food. But 80% of the time, I try to stick to my guns. And even if you can do it 80% of the times, you don't have to be an embodiment of perfection or a paragon of perfection like Virat Kohli. You'll still see very good results. Very good results. Yeah. Cool. And the last point that I have on my list, and then let's definitely, have some interaction also. I'm missing you guys. I'm seeing your comments, from the corner of my eye. तो interactive भी करेंगे, ठीक है? I want to go through a lot of the comments that have come early on in the show, and go through whatever comments come in real time as well. Once I'm done with this last point of mine, hopefully you're enjoying everything that I'm talking about. मैं तो mood में हूँ, and that goes without saying. I'm talking about Virat Kohli, right? तो मैं हमेशा mood में रहूँगा, but hopefully you're also enjoying this chat. If you are, again, like send some comments, send some love. Even if you aren't, let me know, and let me know what you aren't liking, because you either win or you learn, as Virat Kohli would say. Cool. Number 7 is again something that you can actually implement in your life, and this is something I'm trying to implement. I suck at this. I would say I suck at this. This is probably needs a lot of work on my part. Reframing problems or obstacles as opportunities. Okay? Reframing problems or obstacles as opportunities. Now, there are two ways in which Virat Kohli does that. Okay? Number one, we all know he's a chase master. There's no one better at the art of run chases than Virat Kohli, right? There's Virat Kohli number 1, followed by broad daylight. Or koi nahi hai. There's Virat Kohli number 1, right? Now, whenever you see like a stiff total on the board, India could be chasing 360. India could be 5 wickets down. All the top order batsmen gone, but Virat Kohli is still at the helm. He's still at the crease, right? He looks at the scoreboard. Required run rate, 12 runs per over, 13 runs per over, ticking up and up and up. A lot of people would be stifled by such a challenge, by the magnitude of that challenge, right? They might start viewing this as a problem that India finds itself in. But instead of actually interpreting that as a problem, Virat Kohli looks at that as an opportunity. An opportunity to shine for your nation, an opportunity to actually contribute towards your nation's winning cause, an opportunity to contribute towards bringing your nation over the line. So it's funny, nothing. Shakespeare said this. Shakespeare said, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. What that means is things by themselves are neither good nor bad. We assign these labels to them. We say, acha, ye gandi situation hai, ye achhi situation hai, ye problem nahi hai, right? So oftentimes it's your interpretation of the situation that actually determines how you will react to that situation. So the same situation could be viewed as a problem by one person, but it could be viewed as an opportunity by another person. And Virat certainly belongs to this camp. He belongs to this category. India will find itself in a precarious situation. Virat is like, you know what? It's an opportunity. And that positive reframing, right? The way he's interpreted that is what instills in him the belief that, boss, I can actually take India over the line right now. So I think we ought to do this in our lives as well. Like, do the silly things that happen, silly things that honestly are first world problems that I experience. And I'm griping about those oftentimes. That's when I remind myself, boss, I mean, there's absolutely no reason to actually interpret this as an impediment, as a problem. And each problem has salutary effects. Salutary ka matlab malum hai? Salutary ka matlab ki something negative that happens, but it produces positive results. If not now, in the future. Jaise the most common example being failure has lots of salutary effects. Failure is the raw material or the ingredient needed to create success. Failure has salutary effects. So these problems also have salutary effects. And you can actually reap the salutary effects of these problems by looking at them not as problems, but as opportunities. The second way in which Virat Kohli can reframe problems as opportunities. Boss, just think about the pressure that man is under. As captain, of the Indian cricket team. Just think about the pressure that he's under. Okay? But there are two ways in which you can actually view pressure. Yeah? There are two ways in which you can view pressure. You can view pressure as being very constricting, as very debilitating, as very stifling, as very suffocating. है ना? And maybe most people do that because the word pressure by itself, if you look at it independently, I think it has a negative connotation. है ना? But Virat Kohli looks at pressure as a privilege. How many people get that opportunity? Of course, like he has the talent, the work ethic, the self-belief. That's why he got there. But still, in a nation of 1.3 billion people, with so many people wanting to represent India, it's only 11 people who end up representing India. Not many people get that opportunity. So he considers himself to be extremely lucky to be facing that pressure. And so pressure is a privilege. That's how he looks at it. Plus, they also say pressure builds diamonds. If you've studied like basic level chemistry, you'll know that, to create diamonds, to build diamonds, you need pressure. Pressure has to be applied. Pressure builds diamonds. So that pressure that Virat Kohli faces, he uses that as an input to sparkle, to dazzle like a diamond, which he does more often than not. Yeah. So to him, being the captain of the Indian cricket team, playing for your nation, representing the tricolor, wearing your heart on your sleeve, it's not a job. It's not a burden. It's a healthy responsibility. It's not pressure. It's an opportunity. It's a privilege, as I said. That's it. Did you guys enjoy it? I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had the time of my life, to be completely honest. I honestly felt like a man possessed. I have a few concluding points as well that I want to talk about. Not about Virat Kohli. We've talked about Virat Kohli enough. But about a few other things that I want your opinion on. So this is very important. Please stay with me for just a few minutes. I want to be taking a few questions as well. What do you guys think about this format? What do you guys think about podcasts such as these? To be completely honest, I think a lot of you might agree with this, but if you don't, please tell me, because I want differing opinions as well, right? I'm all for diversity of opinions. I don't want to fucking find myself in an echo chamber where everyone is just regurgitating everyone else's views. Okay? I don't want that to happen. But for me personally, I think nothing gives me a higher high or a greater kick than having extemporaneous conversations, especially when there are people involved. When I'm speaking with you guys in real time. I don't like talking. I mean, I like it. I won't say I don't like it, but I don't like it as much. I don't like talking to a camera that's recording me as much as talking in a live setting like this and having genuine discussions such as these, having conversations such as these, where I'm talking with people as opposed to talking at a camera, talking at an inanimate object. That doesn't give me as much of a high. So what do you guys think about this format, this podcast format? So what I'll tell you, what I have planned for my channel going forward, okay, based upon the many things that I've experimented with over the last, I don't know, like few months since I started my channel, I feel podcasts, long form conversations, live streams, and interviews with people as well, I feel that really aligns with my skills, my strengths, my interests. That's something I enjoy. And based upon, the minimal feedback that I've been getting from all of you guys, I think you guys enjoy this as well. But let me know. I need your honest opinion. Be as radically honest and straightforward with me as possible. If you don't like it, tell me you don't like it. Say it how you see it. I'll appreciate that. It might ruffle my feathers now, but I'll respect you for it. So don't try and be popular. A lot of people who don't quite have the courage to say no, who are yes men, who always say yes to everything. They trade popularity for respect. They might feel, okay, acha boss, I'm being popular now. The other person likes me now because I'm saying yes to everything that he or she is saying. But then that person might not respect him or her. So you're trading popularity for respect. So I think if you're being honest right now, I'll appreciate that. Okay, I might put out a community post also where you guys can actually comment and I can see all of your comments. क्योंकि अभी comments आ रहे हैं जा रहे हैं, so I can't really keep a track of all of them. तो मैं community post डालूंगा explaining more. But the plan that I have for my channel going forward is this. ठीक है, so I want podcast to be an integral part of my channel. The podcast will be of two types. Number one will be solo podcast. ठीक है, solo podcast such as these, and most of the solo podcasts that I do will be live streamed क्योंकि उसमें मजा आता है. Imagine doing this like when a camera is recording me as opposed to doing this live. मुझे उतना मजा नहीं आता, but maybe there's some instances when I actually do it recorded, but for the most part it's going to be live. Okay, so that's one type of podcast which are solo. So Anubhav Talks solo podcast. The second type will be where I bring guests. So I'm thinking of maybe bringing a guest a week. Maybe this could be like an every Sunday thing. I'm thinking of calling it Anubhav Talks Podcast Sunday Special, something like that. So I'll bring a guest a week because guest ke saath bhi, I think, for the people who have actually seen my conversations with guests, I love to fucking shoot the shit. I love to shoot the breeze. I love to have conversations. I'm a conversation junkie, right? And so all of the conversations that I have, they could be about serious topics, but I think you know my style. I talk about serious topics with a lot of levity. I talk about serious topics in a very non-serious manner. And that's my style. That's what I enjoy. And so trust me, the conversations will be a lot of fun. But I would like to think that I try bringing not just the entertainment aspect, but also an educational component to it, So it's a fun way of learning. And when I say learning, I'm not sitting on a fucking pedestal, teaching you guys ki boss, ye karo. मैं advice kabhi नहीं देता हूँ, ज्ञान मुझे देना नहीं है. I'm just talking about my own experiences. That this is what worked for me. These are the people who inspired me. These are the books that inspired me. Now it's up to you to decide whether you want to follow this or not, right? So I've said this in the past. I'll say it again. Adopt what you like. Discard what you don't. Do not blindly emulate anyone. Unless, of course, it's Virat Kohli. I'm kidding. So give me your feedback. Okay? I'll please, to everyone who's watching, I'll probably when I'm going through this live stream again, I'll look at all your comments that came in throughout the stream, but I'll also put out a community post. So please be on the lookout for it because I would love to get your feedback on what I have in mind in terms of the content or the nature of the content that I'm going to be producing on my channel going forward. Okay. The other thing that I ought to mention is please description mein abhi dekh lo. I have the Apple podcast link. I have the Spotify link as well. So now I've uploaded all the audio versions of the podcast. So 11 episodes so far. All 11 episodes or all 10 episodes. This is the 11th one. So I'm going to upload this after I'm done with this live stream. All 10 episodes are on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts as well. Please, मैं हाथ जोड़ता हूँ. Seriously, अगर तुमको enjoy, अगर ये अच्छा लगा, please subscribe कर दो Spotify में, please subscribe कर दो Apple Podcast में. If you could, please give a rating also on Apple Podcasts. If of course, you use iOS, if you're an iPhone user, if you're an iOS user, and if you have the Apple Podcast or the podcast app, please, मैं हाथ जोड़ता हूँ. Assuming that you enjoyed this, definitely give it a nice rating, on the app. Maybe write a review as well. If you could, I would really, really, really appreciate it. And in the future, you don't necessarily have to tune in for the video version, in case you're not available. I will be uploading the audio versions on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well, in case you want to catch it later, or in case you just want to, listen to the audio version while you're taking a walk, while you're eating, while you're running, while you're doing any other activity that doesn't allow you to see my lovely face. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Maza aaya. Should I, let me look through some of the comments. Podcast is good, but you should bring some people and make videos with them. Those videos would do wonders, I think. 100% Tejas, thank you so much for the suggestion. And that reminds me, listen, guys, that reminds me, I totally understand that regardless of how good the quality of the podcast might be, right? Sometimes it's not possible for anyone to actually listen with rapt attention for 1 hour plus, 2 hours, 3 hours, unless you're a Joe Rogan maybe. But even with Joe Rogan, sometimes you can like zone out after like a few minutes, or you might not just have the bandwidth to invest so much time. So what I'm going to be doing, rest assured, is that I will be actually carving out clips or snippets from live streams such as these, from conversations that I have with other guests on the podcast, and uploading them as snippets, as like 5-minute snippets, 6-minute snippets, 7-minute snippets, 8-minute snippets. That is more palatable, that is more digestible, right, than like a 1 hour long conversation. So I totally understand that given the dearth of attention spans right now, right, it's not possible for someone to actually digest like a 1 hour long or a 2 hour long podcast. So I will be carving out snippets as well. And in case you like the snippet, then of course I'll be having a link to the full episode in case you want to watch it after you've seen the snippet, after you've been sold on the episode by virtue of the snippet that you watched. Okay. So that's the idea that I have in mind. Of course, it's still work in progress, so we'll see. It's an experiment, है ना? Like iske pehle, especially before the IPL started, I wasn't doing too many live streams or too many such conversations. ज़्यादा नहीं कर रहा था, एक दो किया था, बहन के साथ किया था. But now I'm going to be experimenting with this a lot more. We'll see how the experiment turns out. If the early results are satisfying or promising, then we'll stick with it. But thank you so much. Ranveer Alabadia would be worried, a competitor in the market. Let me tell you, and I do not mean this as I'm not, this is not like a jibe that I'm flinging, but the only regret that you'll have listening to like the podcast that I'll be doing on my channel, to the podcast you'll be consuming on my channel, is not consuming more of it. That's the only regret that you'll have. And the only regret that you'll have to not subscribing to my channel, or the only regret that you'll have to subscribing to my channel, is not having subscribed earlier. So that reminds me, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, definitely subscribe to it. Bell icon bhi baja dena, because just subscribing doesn't really mean anything. So if you want to keep up with all the videos that I'm going to be uploading, definitely do subscribe to it. Having been a massive consumer of content over the years, I know or have like a decent sense of what is quality content versus shitty content. So trust me when I say this, I will not just be putting out content for the sake of putting out content. I think one of the reasons, and I think this works against me, a lot of people complain about the poor frequency at which I upload videos. Like earlier, before the IPL started, I was uploading like 1 video per week, at most 2 videos per week, when other creators do 3, 4, 5, sometimes daily uploads as well, right? Because I was also trying to maximize quality. Now I understand that you cannot be a fucking hyper perfectionist, right? There has to be like a healthy balance between quality and quantity. But for the most part, in fact, every single time, it will be my endeavor to produce quality content and to publish only the quality stuff. So mind you, if I do release a video, मुझे लगता है कि हाँ, boss, there is something about this video that will be compelling for you. Okay? So I won't just be releasing shit for the sake of releasing shit. Okay? Cool. That's it, yaar. Maza aa gaya. Thank you so much for the lovely compliments, the lovely comments. I'm reading some of the comments. मुझे बहुत अच्छे लग रहे हैं. But as I said, मैं सब पढ़ूंगा after I'm done with this. और एक soon, like another aspect of the podcast will be an ask me anything. मतलब where we do nothing, we just chill. समझो, there's no topic. ये नहीं कि विराट कोहली के बारे में आज बात करें, फिटनेस के बारे में आज बात करें. We'll just chill. वो उसमें भी बहुत मजा आता है. मतलब बस बैठेंगे, you guys ask questions, मैं आंसर करूंगा. I'll ask you guys questions, तुम लोग आंसर करना, और हम लोग बस chit chat कर रहे हैं. जैसे हम लोग chit chat किए थे after the IPL was over. We were just like catching up after a long time. It had been like 1.5 months, and I was completely off the YouTube grid, and then we were just catching up. So we'll definitely do that. Sanjana, thank you. I also want to do that, and I hope that you will be a part of the catch up that we do. KKR position after restart. Boss, तुम लोग हरामी questions पूछते हो. I don't know, यार. Yeah, it's tough to say. It's going to be foolish on my part. It's going to be foolish on my part to. I was talking about irrational optimism, but I think ये थोड़ा ज़्यादा ही irrational हो जाएगा if I say KKR finish in the top 4. Funny things happen in the IPL, but I would be, I don't know. I mean, given a plight right now, when the IPL does eventually restart, I'd be happy with like a 5th position or a 6th position. I think that's going to be respectable given where we find ourselves currently. Virat Kohli should be replaced with Rohit for captaincy. What's your take on that? For what? Isn't Virat the captain? Virat Kohli should be replaced with Rohit for captaincy. I'm not understanding. Am I missing something? Am I missing some big breaking news or something? Has Rohit Sharma been announced captain? Jyoti, quality all day long. I'm a sucker for quality, definitely. Given that reminds me of like a beautiful line that I read. Given the abundance of content that's out there right now, we are being overfed but undernourished. Given the abundance of content out there, and a lot of the content being very mediocre content as well. Of course, I'm not making fun of people. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of guts to be a creator and put your name and face out there. It requires a lot of accountability, right? And you having to deal with whatever haters, trolls, provocateurs. But given the abundance of content that's out there, we're being overfed but undernourished. Please see my question. What's your question, Marathe Fai? What a name, Marathe Fai. was your what's your question, boss? Uh, was your English so good before you went to the States? Look, I mean, I've been lucky as well, right? I went to an English a proper like English medium school, a Christian school. I went to the best school in India, La Martiniere for boys, or at least back then was the best school in India. A lot of my Calcuttan buddies who did not go to La Martiniere might beg to differ right now. Uh, it's fallen from grace since then. But it was good. I mean, I knew English, but I was very underconfident. I didn't know how to express myself. Because of my confidence having been propped up, right? My ability to express myself has gone up as well. It's the same with humor. It's the same with humor as well. In fact, 2 दिन पहले मैं सोच रहा था, not trying to blow my own trumpet, but a lot of people, in comments, right? Anubhav, you're funny. You're funny. Like a lot of your videos are funny. You're quirky. Us hisab se. And I was thinking, boss, I never had the reputation of being someone who's actually funny. But what oftentimes happens is confidence is like the carrier of your humor. So it's almost as if, the humor or the potential for humor or the potential to be, funny sometimes was always there. But the confidence was lacking. Confidence is like the carrier. समझ रहे हो? तो जब confidence आ गया, automatically that humor was carried from the hidden parts to the more expressive parts. So once I started expressing myself as a result of becoming more confident, ऐसे लोगों को लगने लग गया कि वाह मेरी इंग्लिश बहुत इंप्रूव हो गई, वाह मेरा ह्यूमर बहुत अच्छा हो गया. So it's just confidence, it's, I think humor, your communication skills, all else being equal, is a function of your confidence. How has your confidence increased? I've done a video on this. I've done a very comprehensive video on this. In fact, I want to do one live stream similar to this, just dedicated, like solely focusing on confidence, charisma, communication skills. Maybe I do separate ones for, confidence and charisma could be one of them. Communication skills could be a separate one, because I think both topics need like a fair bit of attention, and I definitely want to make it comprehensive, just to do justice to the topics that I'll be talking about, that I feel can be extremely helpful to all of you watching. But I've done a video on this, so definitely take a look at that. It's like a 9 or 10 minute video. I feel I've said this in the past, and I'll continue saying this. I think it's one of the more underrated videos on my channel. So I think you definitely check it out. And if you do check it out, all else being equal, I think you'll find yourself in better stead compared to others who've missed out. So do not miss out. So I hope you experience FOMO right now if you haven't watched the video, and then address your FOMO by watching the video. True words. Make videos on communication skills. Your skills are innate in that. Brilliant. I will do that, Marathify. Thank you so much. Aditya Mathur, hey Anubhav, when did you first get into Jordan Peterson's work, and what would you say are your major takeaways? What are your opinions on the recent Red Skull and the transgender bill controversy? Red Skull, transgender bill, it's been extensively talked about. Mujhe bolna nahi hai. Even if I do say things about it, I think I'm not going to be adding anything new to the debate. I probably concur with a lot of the people. In fact, I concur with you should watch Michaela Peterson's video. Jordan Peterson's daughter, who talked about, she gave her reaction to Jordan Peterson being depicted as a Red Skull. In fact, there's a conversation between Chris Williamson, who's the host of the Modern Wisdom podcast, and Jordan Peterson, who recently made an appearance on that podcast, and they talk about the Red Skull issue. And it's funny. It's funny how people can actually depict him as Red Skull. But whatever. Nothing new that I'll be adding. So I'm going to refrain from commenting on that. But when did I get into Jordan Peterson? I mentioned this briefly. So this was when I'd come back from the States, back to India, July of 2018, like a couple of months after having come back from the States, when I was sort of clueless, when I didn't quite know, what I should be doing next. And I didn't quite have any sense of purpose in life. That's when I started reading 12 Rules for Life. And I think that definitely instilled in me, or at least gave me the recipe that helped me cultivate like a sense of purpose, or find my sense of purpose, or become closer to my sense of purpose. So that really helped me. My major takeaways, I would say the key takeaway from Jordan Peterson's work is that, and this might sound a bit morbid, yeah, suffering is inevitable. It's omnipresent. You have to embrace suffering. But a lot of people avoid suffering, thinking that, oh, life is full of suffering. Life is only full of suffering. There's a lot of suffering in life. Shit happens. And oftentimes it's no fault of yours. Like someone in your family dies, right? And you're like, what the fuck did I do to deserve that? The external circumstances might be rigged against you. You might feel as if, through no fault of mine, I find myself having to contend with this massive catastrophe in my life. So suffering will hit everyone. But what a lot of people overlook is the fact that there's a lot of meaning to be found in life as well. And that meaning that you find in life is the antidote to the suffering. It oftentimes even, dare I say, makes the suffering worthwhile. So it's not one-sided. It's not all suffering. There's a lot of meaning to be found in life. And that's one of the reasons I do not quite believe with modern Jainism as well, or modern day Jains, who talk about the fact that life mein bas dukh hi dukh hai, dukh hi dukh hai, dukh hi dukh hai. I agree, dukh bahut hai. But there's a lot of meaning to be derived from life as well. A lot of it. And it's the meaning, right? That oftentimes comes from you pursuing a sense of purpose. That, as I said, slashes that suffering. And your sense of purpose is vital. It's extremely important, right? There are two types of purpose. There's an individual sense of purpose. There's a communal sense of purpose. Your individual sense of purpose is whatever it is that, makes you want to wake up in the morning with a spring in your stride, with energy. What are you looking forward to that day? Like I woke up in the morning with a spring in my stride, knowing that, I'm going to be doing this today. I kid you not. I was excited for this. And a bit nervous as well, I won't lie. But the other type of purpose is communal purpose. And that's what a lot of us are missing right now. That's what I'm dearly missing right now. It's the community, right? That you relate to. It could be a gym community. It could be a religious community. It could be a college community. Given the testing times, given the trying times right now, a lot of people are missing their communal sense of purpose. And you need both. You need both. As much as I love my solitude, I need to be seeing people as well. I need to be interacting with people. This is very therapeutic for me. Before the IPL started, when I was going to the gym every single day for like 3 months straight, I was fucking loving it. Those 3 months, I would say that was like the purple patch in my life. Because I was seeing familiar faces on a daily basis. I was getting my sense of communal purpose from the gym. But that's gone missing now. It's a shame. But such are the times. Have you found your purpose in life? I don't know. I think I'm definitely much closer to my sense of purpose now than I was maybe in 2018. I think it's also a never-ending process towards refining your sense of purpose, right? I talked about this in one of my recent videos as well. You might have a good sense of the general direction in which you want to head. And that takes some doing as well. That's not easy. That is not easy. But once you figure out, okay, this is like the general direction in which I want to be heading, how do you further narrow down your path? How do you further narrow down your niche? It's like this. अच्छा मुझे science पढ़ना है, मुझे commerce नहीं पढ़ना है, ठीक है? And let's just say you made the right decision. Science is what aligns more with your calling, your life's calling. Now within science, you're like, अच्छा physics पढ़ना है कि chemistry पढ़ना है कि maths पढ़ना है कि biology पढ़ना है कि ये पढ़ना है. Now you're like, चलो physics पढ़ते हैं. Now you further streamlined or narrowed down your focus. अब physics में क्या? Electromagnetism पढ़ना है, Newton's laws पढ़ना है, ये पढ़ना है, वो पढ़ना है, ये पढ़ना है. So understanding. So I think it's that perpetual process, that never-ending process towards further refining your niche, your sense of purpose. So I think that I'm headed in the right general direction, but of course I have to keep polishing it every single day. Yeah. Favorite TV show? I haven't watched too many TV shows. I don't know if like All or Nothing counts as a TV show. Probably not, but I've seen All or Nothing, both the Tottenham Hotspur one as well as the Manchester City one. But throughout my life, I've seen 3 TV shows in their entirety, right? One is Friends. Who doesn't love Friends? The other one is the Office. Absolutely loved The Office. I love the UK version more than the US version. Sorry. Did I like the UK version more or the US version more? Whatever. I like both. I've seen both. The UK version as well as the US version of The Office. And the third one is 2.5 Men. 2.5 Men. I used to maybe I picked up a bit of my charisma from Charlie Sheen. That might be an unpopular opinion as well. I haven't seen Scam 1992. Must read books before turning 30. Bro, I haven't been reading too much, yaar. That's what I feel horrible about. I have not been reading too much. I don't know, yaar. I've become a bit... Earlier, I could actually sit down for like half an hour for 40 minutes and read at a stretch. But now I've become a bit impulsive. I don't know why. Like maybe there's too much energy inside me. And so sometimes I sit down and I'm like, I'll read for like 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden, I'll just get distracted. Or I'll just like get up. I'll get bored very easily. So I don't know, maybe it could be a function of the books that I'm reading right now. Maybe I'm not quite finding all the books that I'm reading all that interesting. But I have to like start reading a lot more. Yeah, shame on me, shame on me. But let's do a separate podcast also on books that I've read that have left a big impact, like a very indelible impact upon my life. We'll do that. Okay. um mm, mm, mm. Just a curious question, why should I subscribe to your channel? That's beautiful. So here I am selling you guys on my channel. So this is my elevator pitch, Anubhava. Firstly, you should subscribe to my channel because your name is eerily similar to my name, Anubhava. I'm Anubhav. Nice to meet you, Anubhava. So I think if that is not reason enough for you to subscribe to my channel, then I would say start. You should probably I don't know. Maybe you've already watched this podcast of mine. If you haven't, then definitely watch it from start to finish. I would definitely say, this was one of my better performances on the channel. Look, this is what I'd say, bro. To sum up again, I'm not like, this is not my sales pitch or anything. It's really up to you if you want to subscribe to it or not. But whatever I talk about, I'll talk about with radical honesty. I think everyone will attest to that. I talk about things based upon my experiences, and I'll talk about how you can actually take steps in your life to improve the quality of your life and hence the quality of your mind as well. Okay. And all of these might seem like very serious affairs, serious topics, but there's always humor. There's always a lot of levity added to discussion. So it's going to be a lot of entertainment. It's going to be a lot of educational stuff, if I may call it that. Although calling it educational sounds a bit fucking cheesy. Cool. This is it, guys. This is it. तो bhenchod yahan khatam kare. Is this the first time I'm using the word bhenchod in this stream? If so, I ought to have used it because this is a stream on Virat Kohli. So I think it would have been a massive travesty if I did not use the word bhenchod throughout the stream. And by bhenchod, what I really mean is Ben Stokes, and I think only diehard Virat Kohli fans will get the joke. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for your company. Absolutely loved it. Had the time of my life, and we'll definitely do a lot more of these. Be on the lookout for my community post that gives more details on what the nature of the content will be on the channel. And I would love to get your, honest and comprehensive thoughts on everything that I have in mind. Until next time, I'll be signing off in my signature fashion. Until next time, take care, stay safe, keep smashing it, and cheers, lads and lasses. Take care. Good night.